Me, Vicky Marie. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in this crazy world we're living in. So just let me sort my camera out. So, nearly overslept this morning and missed this live. So I was nearly not yet. Just not managing to get to bed early at the moment for various reasons. So I end up oversleeping, whereas normally I'm up bright as a button at 6 a.m. Anyway, I'm only on my first coffee, so it may take me a little while to come round properly. So what we're going to talk about, well, it's this case, that's still not resolved. And Widdicome, the more this goes on, the more I believe that it's time to pour around. Terrible things happen to anybody, especially an elderly, 78 years old, hale and hearty, but at the end of the day, 78 is 78. And just literally bashed to death around the afternoon. Details that are coming out now. So we recently heard, I think it was Saturday night at 9 p.m, a second person was arrested on suspicion of Anne's murder. Now, there had already been somebody arrested, but they were released and that was somebody who lived not that far away from Anne in Newton Abbot. And they were released without charge, weren't they? And then very shortly after that, as I say, on Saturday evening, the following morning, we got to hear that a second man had been arrested, a 28-year-old, but this time in South Yorkshire, which is a long, long way from where Anne lived in Devon and Cornwall. So, I just want to say this person still has not been charged. As far as we know, we've not been told that this person has been charged. And there's a limit. Sorry, I'm just looking for my date. There's a limit to how long they can keep someone in custody. So they've got the initial 24 hours. Well, that's up. That's finished. It's 24 hours. I think they're allowed 40 hours, super has to give permission. But, as time on that they're in custody, but they're still sort of, establishing the case against him. They're going to need court permission to keep them any longer if they don't charge them, or they've just got to go ahead and charge them. Now, I must say, it does seem, this time, the police seem pretty convinced that they've got the person who did this horrible thing to Anne Widdicome. So we can presume that charges are forthcoming, but I don't know. I mean, I feel sorry for if the guy is not, if they don't charge him and he's found to be, that he's not involved. That's a shame for him because there's been a lot of publicity about it. Even CCTV, has been obtained by the Sun newspaper, showing the man leaving his home with a great big wooden stick. Have been details of murder about this man. I'm going to talk about those details in this video. We'll also look at, just some things, especially that sort of spat she had with Nick Philpott, who ended up going on to murder 6 of his children. So Mick Philpott had so many children with different mothers, and decided he wanted a bigger house, and instead of trying to go about it in any normal way that anybody would do, he tried to he did set fire to the house he was living in and killed 6 of his children in the process. which we can presume, I suppose, that he didn't mean to kill the children. Who knows what motive was going on in his head? But regardless, 6 children died as a result of his shenanigans. Anyway, we're going to watch Anne being interviewed about that, about Mick, and we're going to have a look at the little sort of spat she had with him. She stood up to him. He's a horrible, violent, aggressive, women hater man. And not only what he did in this particular instance, but he previously severely damaged, severely injured a woman, and she only just survived with her life. So, you know, he was a piece of shit, basically, and Anne stood up to him, and that's what I'll always remember her for. If we have time permitting, I may have another look at that very last interview she did. I did an interview just a couple of days before she was brutally murdered. And because the thing is, if this is the right man now that they've got in custody, and it is, we're going to have a look at the CCTV of this man leaving home with this great big wooden stick that his neighbours saw him leave with. Why did he do it? You know, so the police keep saying it's not politically motivated. You know, but what do they mean by that? But they're also saying that they're keeping an open mind about the motive. Sorry, I'm just getting it's just on Sky News at the moment. I'm just seeing if there is anything different coming up. I don't think so. Maybe today we'll get news that he's actually been charged. Or we're going to look at the police conference as well. They did a short police conference yesterday where really they didn't reveal anything that we didn't know, but no suggestion of political motive. He lived in Rotherham. The man that's arrested, we knew it was South Yorkshire, but it's actually Rotherham. They said there's no suggestion of a political motive, but they also said that they're keeping an open mind. So now, so there's details emerging about this man, and we're going to talk about those and see. You know, to me, I think what astounds me is that to be angry with someone is one thing, but to hold that rage for the, 4 hours or so it would take you to get from Rotherham to where Anne lived, to hold that rage in, to plan it. Maybe he watched that last interview she did the day before and she said something that irritated him. But then he's got in a car the next morning around about 7:30 a.m., if this is the man, and driven all that way, all those hours with this wooden stick, with the, express purpose of murdering Anne. So that's really quite shocking, isn't it? To plan it like that. I just think, you might start off being angry, and surely after, 2 hours driving, you'd be thinking, oh, this is not a good idea, or, he had time to come to his senses. It wasn't that he just sort of got angry and then went round the corner and bashed someone over the head. Drove for 4 hours or so. They think he left home around 7:30 in the morning because he's on the CCTV. And Anne, of course, was murdered around about 12:30 p.m. That's what they think, because that's the time in between, 1 minute she was on the text with the producer of a program she was going to appear on that day, organising the Zoom link, etc. And then the next minute she stopped reading and answering messages. So that's why the police feel that Anne, that she was murdered at around about 12:30. She was murdered very brutally. From what I'm understanding, it was trauma to the head, blunt force trauma to the head. Now, okay, Okay, I'm going to get into that in a moment. So first of all, I just want to say thank you to everyone. My usual thank yous. Thank you for watching. Thank you for liking and subscribing. Please think about subscribing if you're not already subscribed. Subscribe. Completely free way to support my channel. Sorry, I'm just getting distracted. Oh, sorry, bit of other news that I'm going to report on in another video that I'm just having a look at there. Yeah, thank you so much, because subscribing is how my channel grows. Thank you. And it's completely free. And of course, liking the videos. A lot of you don't like the videos, and I don't mean you don't like them. Maybe you don't like them, but people forget to press like. It's very important. Please press the like. Just takes a moment. Just leave your DNA on that like button, and that helps with the algorithm. That's free as well. And then, of course, special thanks to those of you who go that little bit further to support my channel, my members, and those of you who send me Ko-fis. I think I've put my Ko-fi. I always, I do forget to sometimes to remind people of these are just extra ways you can help my channel if you wish. It makes a big difference to me and the channel. Very much appreciated. Those of you who buy Ko-fis, send super stickers, PayPal me, or send me nice emails suggesting. I've not been very good with my emails lately, but I do try my very best to read every email and respond. Those of you leave comments. Leaving a comment is a free way that you can help the algorithm on the channel. So thanks to those of you who do that. And then, of course, my merchandise. So on this Ko-fi page, where you can buy a Ko-fi from £3 or €3, that's where my shop is. That's where the merchandise is. You can buy mugs, T-shirts, etc. You can tell me what you want on them. Special messages. There's wine glasses on there. Special engraved wine glasses. Even a bottle. You can even order a bottle of Vicky Marie Chat's wine. What else? Oh, and there's a new thing that I keep forgetting to talk about. If you want a personalized video, a 5-minute video, birthday video, a prayer, you just tell me what you want, and I will design that. Make a special video for you. If you some people will laugh. Some people say, well, what would I want that for? Well, I don't know, but a special message. If you want a special video from me, exclusive case, you want my take on something, whatever. I mean, there's unlimited opportunities. I must put some examples together. Anyway, so that's on the Ko-fi as well. So lots of things on the page. Okay, hello, lovely lurkers. Thank you for watching. Hello to replay crew. Thank you for watching. And I don't think anyone's in the chat this morning. Empol was there at some point, but he's not there anymore. But hello, Empol. So let's talk about this. What should we? I'm just thinking what we should talk about first. There's so much. I've got lots of things I want to show you. Let's have a look at the police conference. First of all, very short police conference yesterday. You do feel this time they really do seem to think that they've got the right person, because of course they arrested the other guy, and they arrested the other guy very shortly after Anne was sadly killed. Then they arrested let's see. Police conference, but I want the one yesterday. And 2 days ago, but this was Might be on Sky News. I should have got this ready. I thought I had actually, but of course things disappear. Really, it was things that we knew already, that this man had been arrested in South Yorkshire, that there was nothing to suggest a political motive. What else? That yeah, there was nothing really new, only that it was in Rotherham. That was really the only new thing about the this second press conference, which I don't think I'm going to be able to find. It's there was somebody from the police was saying, that they thought they'd done a really good job with this. It's a shame if I can't find it actually, because I did think they were patting themselves on the back a little bit, which surprised me because I say the guy hasn't been charged yet. So he hasn't been charged. So, really, we don't know if it might be just the same as the previous guy that was arrested and he ends up getting released. So, I wonder if I can find it on X. So, don't forget to let me know what you think of all this. The more I think about how wicked it is, if this is what's genuinely happened, that a man who when we look at the CCTV, you'll see he's he's 28 years old. It looks like a big, strong guy with a stick and drive all those miles to kill a woman, 5'1". What wickedness! So wicked, to be honest, in my opinion. Very, very wicked. But anyway, let's see if I can find this. Yeah. There is wickedness in this world. There certainly is. Such wickedness. It's quite sad, isn't it? And poor Anne paid the price for someone's wickedness. I mean, Anne was an outspoken person, but you shouldn't be murdered because you're outspoken or because you've got strong views or it just shouldn't be. So apparently, so I found something else. I can't find the police conference, but I found something else that I'll show. So apparently, now, because some people on the comments about the guy, where it was talking about the guy who'd left the house with the wooden stick, some people had commented, well, how did he know where she lived? But of course, where she lived, it was public knowledge, because when she retired there to this place on the edge of Dartmoor, it wasn't a secret. There's photos all over the internet of her standing next to it. She called it Widdicome's Rest. There were photos of her standing there. So apparently, just before she, just 5 days before she was murdered, her home was shown on national TV. Thing is, people get obsessed, don't they? And they just, the rumours are, and they are just rumours, or what the neighbours are saying about this guy. There's a few things they're saying about him. They're saying he was alone as fast before Christmas, and he was really struggling with that. They said that he had learning difficulties. Well, do you know what? We don't know what that means, do we? Because learning difficulties is a massive sort of spectrum. What does that mean? Anything from the fact he was dyslexic, you know, or he could be full blown bipolar, or you know, so we just don't know what that means. Suppose those details will emerge. But the neighbours, so of course the press have been there talking to the neighbours. You know, not the social media haven't been there, but it'd be the social media that gets the bad sort of, oh, you know, we're speculating. But it's the media, the mainstream media that's been there, and politicians like Nigel Farage capitalising on Anne's death to score political points, even though Anne's family have requested that her death not be used to score political points. Of course, Nigel Farage has been there, like, you know, performatively laying flowers, gathering the press around him. And, you know, you can't even go to Anne's home at the moment because it's a crime scene. So he's just going to some random field somewhere and gathering the media around him, and then going and laying a wreath. He's actually nodding to the media to say, right, you can start taking the footage now. Going up to some random tree in the field and putting his wreath down, and then saying to the media, oh, do you need me to do it again? Did you get that okay? You know, that's Nigel Farage for you. He doesn't care about Anne Widdicome. You know, he's just, you know, Anne Widdicome was on the other end of the political spectrum to me, but I respect her because I think she believed in everything. You know, she genuinely had her beliefs, and, you know, everyone's entitled to their beliefs. But with someone like Nigel Farage, I don't think he's got any beliefs. I just think it's, you know, it's all for his own gain and for him. I don't think he cares about the British people, or doesn't care about anyone except himself. So that's a whole different kettle of fish, in my opinion. Okay, so apparently just 5 days before she died, her home was on the TV. Now, it was an old program that had been repeated, but it just makes you wonder, you know, did the guy, let's make sure this is, did he, I was thinking
model
like
to her own exacting specifications.
Well, this is the library.
Wow. I love this drink.
So do I.
Let's go back
All
to
my life I said I'm going to have a library.
Oh, Jack.
So this is her home.
Your nice garden sloping away.
Lovely little house.
Nice, isn't it?
Hello.
How
I'm
do you
Anne.
do? Angus. Angus.
Hi.
It's incredible of you. I can see why you're living here.
Well, I bought the views. Anyway, do you want to see some antiques?
I would love to. Yeah.
Come on in.
Thank you very much.
After buying the bungalow, Anne had it completely remodeled to her own exacting specifications.
Well, this is the library.
Wow. I love this room.
So do I. All my life I said I'm going to have a library.
Oh, look at those dolls.
I retire, a proper library.
Oh, Jack. Your nice garden sloping away.
Lovely little house.
It's nice, isn't it? Hello.
Hi,
How do
man.
you do? Angus. Angus.
Hi.
Oh, it's incredible of you. I can see why you're living here.
Well, I bought the views.
Oh,
Anyway, do you want to see some antiques?
I would love to. Yeah.
Come on in.
Thank you very much.
After
no, it's so sad what eventually obviously happened to Anne in that property. But I hope, you know, she was in it for quite a few years. So I hope she had the pleasure of it and enjoyed living there. It's a beautiful house, beautiful views. Now, did Anne have the door? You know, the other question, of course, we think is how did this person get into her house? You know, did she have the doors open because of the heat? I mean, don't forget, it's been very hot and people do leave the doors open, and Anne probably felt safe there, you know, because of just the geographical position of it. It's so remote, and all the neighbours, you know, it's one of those typical places that all the neighbours say, no, things like that don't happen in this neighbourhood. But of course they do. They happen everywhere. But often when people live in places like that, they relax more. Was the door wide open? Did this killer just literally walk into Anne's house? Or did they ring the doorbell and catch her unawares? Because although she was a very feisty lady, she was only 5'1" and she was elderly. So she would have found it hard to, I'm sure she put up a fight if she could, because that was just the way Anne was. But she'd find it hard against a great big 28-year-old guy, because he is a big guy. We'll see his video in a moment.
behind the bungalow, Anne had it completely remodelled to her own exacting specifications.
This is the library.
Wow.
It would be fabulous in your own house, wouldn't it? She obviously look, they've got teddies here. I don't like the dolls. They're a bit creepy for me. But, you know, and now don't forget, she lived alone. She had a cat, I think. No dogs, as far as I know, but a cat. I hope the cat's okay. You know, so she lived alone. I think she had carers coming in and cleaning this massive house herself, surely. And she had a swimming pool. You know, so there would have been people coming to the house on a regular basis to do various things.
I love this room.
So do I. All my life, I said I'm going to have a library when I retire, a proper library.
Oh, Jack. Your nice gardens.
So yeah, this video was actually from, I think, 2022. It's Celebrity Yorkshire Auction House. And there's no suggestion this did have anything to do with the case, but it was re-shown on TV just 5 days before Anne died. Now, maybe someone who was completely obsessed with Anne, you know, I think this is the thing we have to remember. People do develop in this celebrity culture that we have. People do develop obsessions with people. And it's not always just the people you think, like the young sort of glamorous stars like Taylor Swift. You know, people develop obsessions because they see people on the TV on a regular basis. And they, you know, if somebody's quite poorly mentally anyway, you know, this person, whoever it is, could have got angry with Anne for her views, or maybe he was obsessed with Anne in a different way. Honestly, there's nothing that's not possible. The human condition, you know, you just say, oh no, it can't have been for sex, for example, or it can't have been for this, or it can't be for that. Could be anything. You know, they're struggling to establish a motive for this person, but really, and it could be a political motive. They're saying they don't think it is. They're also, the police are also saying they're not looking for anybody else action with this. So yeah, why did this person do it? So we're going to look now at the video police. He has spoken with this. Maybe they've been to the neighbours to try and get CCTV, but you know, they've released it. The Sun have released it, which really, you know, if the police haven't given their permission to release this, I wouldn't have thought the Sun would do that without permission, because they're not stupid, are they? They don't want to get sued by the police or prosecuted by the police. So maybe the police said they could release it. Who knows? Who knows what goes on in these cases? But anyway, so this is the alleged, don't forget everything is alleged. This is the alleged suspect. So he's dressed in white, I notice. White shorts, white t-shirt. If he is the person that attacked Anne, he would have been covered with blood when he came away, because apparently there was a lot of blood at the scene. It was a very violent scene. And as I say, blunt force trauma. But the chilling thing about this, if it is indeed the person, is he's got a wooden stick with him. So, you know, this guy, if he's ended up being charged, he's going to struggle, isn't he, to explain why he went all the way to Anne Widdicome's house, all those hours with that murder on his mind, because he's actually taken a weapon with him. If it turns out that that was what was used to commit the murder. So I'm presuming now he could have flung that away somewhere on the way back. He may not have actually brought it back with him. Could have thrown it away anywhere, but the police will retrace his steps, because the police will be trying to find that murder weapon. Or he may have even left it at the scene, mightn't he? You know, we just don't know. So this CCTV, this is looks like his neighbour's CCTV, and this was 7:51 a.m. on that morning. And do you remember in the video that I did the other day, he was saying it would take, you know, if the police think the murder happened around about 12:30 p.m., it would take about 4 hours to get to Anne's house from where this man was arrested. So what the neighbours are saying is that the arrest was allowed. Maybe just wasn't expecting the police to connect him at all. You know, so it seems like he did not live near Anne. So it seems like this is where he lived. So it wasn't a question that he'd fled to this address in Rotherham. It seems like this is where he travelled from in the morning, and when he came back to after the murder. However, apparently he does have brothers, and one of them lives in Devon. So maybe that's how he knew the area. Maybe that's how he knew the area. Because you do think he's just, how did he know Anne's house? So they're saying he's got learning difficulties. Hi, Julie. Good morning. They're saying he's got learning difficulties. As I say, what do learning difficulties mean? You know, I mean, that could mean anything. But the thing is, his learning difficulties, whatever they are, they can't be that bad if he managed to get in his car, find out where Anne Widdicome lived, drive 4 miles all the way there, you know, murderer, drive all the way back. You know, he's got quite a lot of presence of mind. I mean, he can drive for a start, you know, so I don't know what his learning difficulties are, what's meant by that. We'll find that out probably as time goes on, you know, so let's have a look at this video. So, yeah, he's getting in the car and he's got this massive wooden stick with him. So he's going to be struggling to say it wasn't premeditated, if that turns out, as I say, to be the murder weapon. Is that actually taking a murder weapon with him? You know, that is like, you know, this is, it's just horrible, isn't it? To think that someone could be that wicked, really, to drive all that way. with murder on your mind of an old lady. And he's a big guy, you can see. He's 28 years old. He's a big, strong guy. And he's gone there, and Anne wouldn't have stood a chance, would she, against him? Anne wouldn't have stood a chance. Just can't imagine what would possess somebody to do that. You know, we've all got, there's lots of people on the telly I don't like. You know what I mean? You watch the telly, there's lots of people that either maybe you don't agree with, or you just, you can't like everybody in this world, can you? You can't like everybody you meet. It's just impossible unless you like, Mother Teresa or something. It's impossible. So there are going to be people that you don't like, but to actually, research, find out where they live, travel for 4 hours or whatever to get to their home, and then beat them to death. That's more than learning difficulties, isn't it? That's much more than learning difficulties. I hate it when they bring up this, say, oh, they were autistic, or they were this, or they were that. I hate that because, most people who are autistic or have learning difficulties do not go around murdering other people. And it's like a slur when, in my opinion, when people use it as a possible reason why somebody did something. Most people with mental health issues or learning difficulties, they're grappling with life just like all of us are, and a lot of people that commit terrible crimes, they've gotten, they're just psychopaths. Now, I'm not saying this guy's a psychopath. I don't know anything about him yet. But to me, even if he has got learning difficulties, let's suppose he's autistic, or, I don't know. I don't know what. That doesn't mean to say he would be prone to do something like this. I don't think. Maybe there is a correlation between, to me, I think, and actually people with learning disabilities or learning difficulties, I mean, as I say, there's all sort of different ways people talk about things. They're more likely normally to become victims themselves than actually be the perpetrator. Some people are just evil. They are just bad. We seem to have sort of forgotten that over, they're always trying to make an excuse for why someone does something. So people say, oh, well, they came from a broken home, or they had a really tough childhood. Nearly most people I know had a really tough childhood. Like they didn't go and murder someone or do terrible things or abuse children, or even people who have been abused themselves don't go on to do it to other children. In fact, sometimes it makes them, they're so sort of sensitive because they know what it feels like. I just don't making excuses for evil. To me, I'm sick of it. I'm sick of it. I think that's part of the problem, personally, of making excuses for people. Oh, well, they've got this, or they've done that, or this happened to them. No, because I'm just not having it anymore. I've come to this conclusion quite a while ago, actually, from personal experience, from, people that I know and what they went through, or what mental health issues they're suffering from. There's no learning difficulty that makes you get in a car and drive for 3-4 hours to murder a 78-year-old woman. So, that's not a learning difficulty. To me, that is evil. It is evil. You couldn't even say in that moment they'd lost. Sometimes people use the mental health defense that they've, got a psychosis in a moment or whatever. That's not psychosis. That's planning. That's premeditation that's driving all those hours with all that hate simmering. He could have turned back at any moment, you know. So I'm not having it, but we'll just watch this one more time. So this is what's been released. Whether it's been released officially, who knows, or whether it's just the Sun newspaper money talking, you know, getting hold of this video. But I wouldn't have thought that they would have took the chance to release it without the police's permission. Surely that's interfering in an investigation, you know, unless the police have actually given permission to do that. Sometimes the police do that. You know, they work with the media. The police perhaps wouldn't release it. Anyway, the police are asking for any information, of course, even though they've got this guy in custody. They haven't charged him yet. So we're waiting for them to charge him. But they do seem to feel that they have got the right person this time. That's the impression that we got. But yeah, this guy is a big guy, isn't he? Big, strong 28-year-old on his way to murder a 5'1", 78-year-old woman. Nice guy. Wooden stick, actually loading up a big wooden stick. Yeah, Julie, I saw that this morning about Sam Neill. Yeah, they're up. It's like, anyway, just don't go there. I can't talk about it. All the losses are mounting up, you know. This is what's been said by the neighbours about this guy. Neighbours and local reports indicate the suspect may have had learning difficulties and led an isolated lifestyle. But police state there's no indication the crime was politically motivated. So he did have, I say, a brother living in he did have a brother living in Devon, apparently. So is that why he knew the area? That might be why. That might be why. Any reason that he focused in on Anne, but the police have publicly stated there is no suggestion at this stage that the attack was politically motivated or related to her recent public interviews. So now then it makes you wonder. So this man that was arrested and released, was that? So yeah, so much more to find out, isn't there? Of course, about this case. Oh, a picture of Anne. I won't be like that needs to go down. I'm just putting a couple of windows down. Now, so over until you got another job or whatever. So the benefit system, when it was introduced for all the right reasons, in my opinion. But of course, the problem was, over the years, it's become abused by some people who, I used to work at the Department of Health and Social Security. I've seen all sorts of people come through the doors for interviews, and you would get people who were absolutely devastated that they'd lost their job. People like my dad, because when he was made redundant, he was absolutely gutted, because for him, he was, your epitome of working class. Terrible not to have a job. No way he was going to go and sign up for benefits. He wouldn't even go and sign up for his unemployment benefit, never mind anything else. There's that mentality that you get of people. And then the other sort of person you'd get who came in, they would know more than you about what benefits they were entitled to. They would quote you. We had this manual that we used to work from. Of course, it wasn't computerized then. They would quote you the page number, the article number, under article such and such in the Social Security Benefits Manual. I'm entitled to a grant for gardening tools. Because you did used to get a grant for gardening tools. If you moved into a new council house, you could apply for all sorts. Gardening tools, new beds, new mattresses, you name it. So you'd get, that was the other sort of claimant you would get, which Mick Philpott was one of those. Know everything they're entitled to and take everything. So Anne Widdicome did this documentary, which was very interesting. So she was going on trying to get jobs for long-term claimants. And Mick Philpott was a very long-term claimant with all these children to two different women, because he had, he had a wife and then he had another woman. Where she is at the moment in this photo that I think you can see on there, he had a caravan parked up next to the house, because that's where he used to do his SEX stuff. So he would alternate the women. So he'd take one in there one night and have SEX with her. Then he would take the other one in the next night and have SEX with them. That's how he ended up with so many children. And these wives, if you like, they were having, on average, one child a year each. So he was increasing his family by 2 children every year. And in the meantime, he was not working. So the state was keeping him and his 2 girlfriends, wives, and his children, multiple children. And Anne went into, he was quite famous because he'd been on the Jeremy Kyle show. I think he'd already been on the Jeremy Kyle show before this. So Anne went off there to try and talk some sense into him. So let's have a look. There's a little clip here. It'll give you an idea of how feisty Anne is.
As soon as I started pressing him on work on the morality, he started to get very knocked indeed. Why don't you go out and work?
Right, just shut your gob and listen.
Go out and work.
I am
Get
working.
a job.
I'm looking after my kids.
Get a job. Got very angry, and there was a point when he moved suddenly, and I really thought he was going to hit me. And I flinched back. I thought, this is it. You're a coward.
Let's do as a coward, bitch. Let's move it.
I mean, I'd been slightly worried throughout the whole programme that he might actually get physically aggressive. But I really thought that was the moment. It didn't happen. He had control. He knew when to.
Yeah, no, Mick Philpott, very, very violent man. And she said she flinched, but you didn't see her flinch, did you? She stood and looked at him. He called her a bitch. So this is why I've got respect for Anne, despite the difference in our political views. The way she stood up to this man, she was probably shaking inside. That's. Do you know what? That would be me. That would be what I would do, because I'm only little as well. But
the presenter of the programme had other ideas.
Sorry, I would stand up to this man as well. It would probably get me into trouble. over the years. I mean, maybe I wouldn't so much now I'm older, maybe I would be more scared. But, just through my life, I've always tried to stand up to bullies. But sometimes you are shaking inside. But thing is, sometimes with bullies, you have to stand up to them. Because with someone like Mick Philpott, that his wife, my Reed, she was just like this, she'd just do anything he said. She's just like a shadow next to him, and he would just control her completely. And, my Reed, his wife, I don't know why she went along with everything, even when her 6 children died. And she was still sticking up for Mick, going along with everything he said. So this is, of course, before the fire that he set, but it gives us an insight. We look at, so this is, the caravan next to the house where he used to have, do his sort of harem duties.
But the presenter of the program had other ideas.
As soon as I started pressing him on work on the morality of deliberately living on everybody else, he started to get very narked indeed.
Why don't you go out and work?
Right, just shut your gob and listen.
Go out and work.
I am
Get
working.
a job.
I'm looking after my kids.
Get a job.
Got very angry, and there was a...
Sorry, I just want to show this. So this is the house where all these children lived, and very sadly 6 of them died. So he deliberately set a fire in this house so that the house would be destroyed and he would get a bigger council house. But sadly, he totally misjudged how fast the fire would spread. They couldn't get the children out of there, and 6 of them died. 6 children. And there's that caravan that we've just seen the inside of, and that was like an extra bedroom for him to have sex with his 2 women. So it was there was custody problems as well. It was a very complicated. I have done a video about it in the past. The actual the case of him murdering his children, but this was obviously before everything happened. But Anne had him sussed out straight away, and she stood up to him.
Point when he moved suddenly, and I really thought he was going to hit me, and I flinched back. I thought, this is it. You're a coward.
Let's do as a coward, bitch. Let's move it.
I mean,
Let's see who's a coward, bitch. Let's fucking move it. What a nice man. Oh my God. But did you see, like she said, she flinched, as I said, but she hardly moved. She stood up to him. Good for her. And that's where I got my respect from Anne Widdicome from. Because anyone who stands up to him, like a bully like him,
throughout the whole programme, that he might actually get physically aggressive. But I really thought that was the moment. It didn't happen. He had control. He knew when to be careful. He knew the camera.
Yeah, she's right. He knew that he couldn't, might call her a bitch and get aggressive, but he had to control himself because the cameras were rolling. So, but it makes you wonder that if the cameras wouldn't have been rolling, what would he have done to her? He would have probably punched her. A man like that wouldn't think twice of punching a woman, even though she was shorter than him or whatever, because he's got no control on his anger. Couldn't control his anger, but he could control whether he hit her or not. He wasn't going to hit her in front of all the cameras, was it? But yeah, good for you, Anne. Now I want to show you the video now of her talking after the children died and her thoughts on Mick Philpott afterwards. I just put that back to the beginning. I don't think the sound is coming on. Right, I don't think the sound is coming on. So what I have to do then is I have to stop sharing and then share again. Let's do that. So what I have to do then is I have to stop sharing and then share again. Let's do that. Sometimes that happens when I There you go. Let's try again.
But he did have a superficial affability which allowed him to get on with his neighbours, and I didn't see any sign that the children had any cause to be afraid of him.
And as you've watched this court case,
Yeah,
of the women, extremely manipulative of the system. He was not at all a pleasant character, but he did have a superficial affability which allowed him to get on with his neighbours, and I didn't see any sign that the children had any cause to be afraid of him.
and as you've watched this court case unfold and heard some of the testimony there, what thoughts have gone through your mind? Well,
obviously, I'm appalled by the whole situation, but everything that has emerged is consistent with the milk Philpott that I very briefly knew during the course of that week.
There is a serious case review underway as a result of this. Is there anything, do you think, that social services or anybody else in authority could or should have done about the Philpott family and the way the children were cared for there?
No. It's easy to look back and say somebody should have foreseen this, but this is very much a one-off that a man should kill 6 of his children. The fact is they were clean, they were properly fed, they were well behaved, they were always at school, there was no truancy or absenteeism. So therefore, they appeared to come from a rather unconventional but nevertheless well-ordered home. And unless there were signs to the contrary, you really can't blame teachers, social services, other people from not realising what might happen. I don't think anybody could have foreseen this.
You say unconventional. He seemed to quite enjoy Mick Philpott being, you know, in the spotlight on television, in your documentary, also on the Jeremy Kyle programme. We saw pictures of him on that as well.
He was utterly shameless. I mean, I wasn't doing a documentary on his lifestyle. I was doing a documentary on his reliance, deliberate reliance, on state benefits. And my mission in life was to get him a job. I found him 3, and to challenge him to take it. And he supposedly took one, but never reported for work. He knew he had, through state benefits, a meal ticket, and a rather good meal ticket for life.
And benefits, of course, have been a lot in the news this week. I mean, to what extent was he, in any sense, representative of a certain category of people who do live on benefits in that sense?
I've no doubt that he used his children. I mean, at that stage when I met him, he was producing 2 a year, 1 by each woman. I've no doubt that he used his children as meal tickets. And the fact that he didn't work was owing to a state system which allowed him not to. But none of that explains the wickedness which governed his previous actions, which led to his attitude towards women, and which led to that extremely reckless act. I don't think you can blame the benefit system for that. And it does behove us all in these circumstances to keep our heads about what is and what isn't down to the benefit system.
Yeah, so whatever, you know, as I say, you think of Anne, like, she's very on it, you know, she was anti-benefits.
And Wilson,
that was when
he is a wicked man. There have been wicked men throughout the ages, long before the welfare state.
Of course, yes, of course there have been. And I'm not suggesting, as everybody on
when their children died, and it was them that killed them. But anyway, so yeah, and very, as I say, although I didn't agree with a lot of her political views, and I do agree with her with the benefit system, it's gone too much the other way. We've gone from a situation in the UK, why the benefit system was introduced was because there was nothing for people if they, lost their jobs or whatever. There was no cushion, if you like, before they got another job. And then we've gone from that to this extreme thing. Benefits is not supposed to be a way of life. It's not supposed to be a lifestyle choice. Yeah, I know people that have never worked, ever. 70 now, never worked their whole life. Officially, I mean, they've done like jobs on the side and things like that. And, I think that's wrong for lots of reasons, not just like the burden on the state, but just not good for people. Work can be a positive thing, as well. So, yes, some people are not capable of working, but I do think over the years, it's been almost too lax. It's gradually come to a point where not only people are using the benefit system as a lifestyle, but then their children are doing it as well, and their children's children. You've got families of claimants who literally nobody's ever worked. I mean, it's not right, is it? Because, if people don't work, there's that people aren't paying taxes and stuff like that, that goes towards sustaining the benefit system for the people that do need it. So personally, I agree with Anne that the benefit system needs looking at, but I don't agree that we shouldn't have one. Of course, there should be a benefit system. The vulnerable people in our society, they need looking after. But, that's just my opinion anyway. I'm sure you'll let me know what you think. So I did agree with Anne on that level. People like Mick Philpott having 2 children a year, because he knew that each child they get paid more money. They get paid more money. And then the trouble with that as well is it gets to a point where, to be honest, for Mick Philpott, he probably wouldn't have been able to find a job that would pay him what he was getting on benefits. He was getting so much money on benefits and getting his rent paid and this, that, and the other. You're never going to find a job that would pay the same money. But I suppose then you get addition. You can apply for the family credit or whatever. I don't know. I have no idea what these things are called anymore because I haven't lived in the UK for a long time. But believe me, here in Spain, you don't get anything. You get a minimal amount to stop you starving to death, which is about 50 euros a week. It's about 200 euros a month. And you have to apply for that every month. You don't get an order book and then you cash in it forever. Every month you have to go down and apply for the 200 euros or whatever it is that literally is just to stop you from starving to death. So here in Spain, it's complete opposite, if you like, probably not enough help for people when sometimes people do need help. And I'm all for that. Help people while they need it, but it should not become a way of life, in my opinion. And people like Mick Philpott, oh my God, and those poor children. Now, it was interesting what Anne said there, that the children were well looked after. They were fed, they were clothed, they went to school, they were, so there was no evidence that they were badly treated. And of course, what Mick and Mary did in the end, I think, they probably did not intend to kill the children, but they were so reckless, putting their lives in danger like that, and it all, of course, and then, of course, the lies they told afterwards. So those poor children. But anyway, because I've seen quite a lot of videos about the Philpotts and, the neighbours that tried to save those children were absolutely traumatised that they could not save the children. And Mick and Mary, Mick was making jokes at the hospital and, flirting with the nurses. That's the character that Mick Philpott is. And Anne saw him for what he was, and she stood up to him, and we saw that clip, even though he was really quite aggressive towards her. So I'll always respect Anne for that. Always, always. So what else did I want to tell you about? Yeah, wanted to. So the Sun is right on this case. You know, the Sun newspaper. Of course, everyone telling us not speculate, but nobody speculates quite as well as the mainstream. Just share it, and it's them that have put out this CCTV. So yeah, Anne Widdicome murder suspect drove at 270 miles to Dartmoor with a wooden stick on the morning of the day she died. To an isolated bungalow. But you know, I think finding out Anne lived was a difficult thing to do if you really wanted to. You know, the question we've got and oh, this is the address in Rotherham where the man was arrested. So that I'm going to show the CCTV there, wasn't it? So yeah, having these dark thoughts and planning on killing Anne Widdicome. Why? Why Anne? Why? She must have been targeted deliberately, because if this man is the oh, I'm just seeing here now on Sky News, the police are not looking for any other suspects. So they seem to think they've got their man, don't they? But they haven't charged him yet. But why? There's a big gap, isn't it, between watching someone on the telly and saying, "Oh, you're talking a load of rubbish," you know, like you're probably doing about me now. I don't know, but you know, that's one thing. Not liking someone who's on the telly and saying, "Oh, for God's sake, you're talking rubbish" or whatever, to then planning to murder them and get in a car and driving all that distance with a wooden stick. Why? Why did he do that? I don't think I'm sharing. Hang on. So yeah, when you look at any home, never know what's going on behind the scenes in the head, does it? This is the house where this man in Rotherham lived. What was it about Anne? I wonder. You know, why did he hate Anne so much? Poor Anne. There she is in her kitchen. Apparently it was in the kitchen where she was attacked, which, you know, you should feel safe in your own home. If you can't feel safe in your own home, what chance have you got anywhere else? I mean, I know a lot of people don't feel safe in their own home, but it's normally through domestic violence or something like that. So yeah, look at all that distance. He was arrested in Rotherham, which is where he lives, from what we can see, and he travelled 270 miles down to Anne Widdicombe's house in Dartmoor. So he definitely was intending to do it. You know, it's not an accident, is it? He wasn't just driving past and the thought popped into his head. So she allegedly suffered severe head injuries after being bludgeoned before being found by her carer. So the other thought is that she probably laid there for at least 24 hours before she was found, which is just horrible to think of, isn't it? And horrible to think she may even still have been alive. when he left, and if he would have even called anonymously for medical attention, maybe she would have been saved. You know. So yeah. So it's saying here that the police fear that she died after a burglary gone wrong. I don't believe that, do you? He's not going all the way there to do a burglary, surely. If you're going to do a burglary, you don't, surely. Unless he was thinking he was going to burgle Anne Widdicome. But I'm not having that. I think there's, I think he's targeted her for some other reason. I don't know what the bloody reason is, but so neighbour Courtney Foster said the arrest on Saturday was really loud, and they took his dog as well. I hope the dog's okay. There's always a dog, isn't there? But that poor dog. The dog hasn't done anything. He's gone off and murdered Anne Widdicome. I just hope the dog is found a new home or somebody takes it on. It's a shame for the dog. These were the messages. We went through them in yesterday's video. She was right up to when they think she was murdered. She was messaging the producer of the show she was supposed to appear on, trying to get the Zoom link organised. And it was all the messages were read or answered until Anne sent the final message saying, "Oh, it's received panic over," because there was a bit of a problem about whether she'd received the link or not. He said, the producer said, "Amazing, let me know if there's any issues." And then that was at 12:10, that was read, that WhatsApp. And then the next WhatsApp, when he said to her, "Hi Anne, can you join the Zoom call now, please?" It wasn't read. No blue ticks. And then subsequent voice calls, no blue ticks, no answer. "Hi Anne, is everything okay?" So at some point between 12:19 and when he then contacted her at 12:48, and that message wasn't read, at some point between those 2 points, Anne Widdicome was brutally murdered in her own kitchen. It's horrible, isn't it? So all credit to this producer, because they then contacted and when they still couldn't get hold of her, they contacted Anne's agents, to say, "Look, we can't get hold of Anne," etc. And it was because of them that eventually the alarm was raised, I think. So, yeah, she just said, oh, God, I can't look at Nigel Farage. So this is Nigel Farage pretending to care, putting the reef down in front of the cameras. And then he made some comment that a car was seen parked outside Anne's home minutes before she died. What's he getting involved in it for? So, 12:19, Anne sends a message to Channel 5. 12:25 is the time Farage says the car pulled up. What's he saying that for? 12:30, the time police believe she was killed. And 12:48, Channel 5 gets no reply. So another resident said, there are loads of unmarked police cars and loads of people ran into the house. I felt quite sick, to tell you the truth. And again, just saying that thought not to be politically motivated. Officers not looking for anyone else. So she was supposed to be going on that show to talk about Nigel Farage, because of course she was a member of the Reform Party. She was quite close politically to Nigel. And she was the Reform UK Immigration and Justice spokeswoman. And she was to answer questions about Nigel Farage's Clapton-on-Sea by-election and the inquiry into his finances. That's what she was due to appear on the programme for. Why is this person killed, Anne, I wonder? What is it that Anne said or did? That's a massive thing to do, isn't it? To get in a car with a weapon and go off all those miles to murder a little old lady. And then during the show, Matthew Allwright confirmed that Miss Widdicome had been due to appear but had stopped responding to messages. And studio staff reportedly made multiple more attempts to contact Miss Widdicome over the coming hours, including that night and the following morning, but to no avail. Channel 5's Dan Walker later confirmed her agent was then contacted and asked to go and check on her, but it was understood that Miss Widdicome's carer found her body in the kitchen on Thursday morning. That will have been traumatic for them, won't it? And called 999 for an ambulance, who in turn notified police at 11:40, nearly a full day after it was theorised she was killed. And poor Anne had sustained severe blunt force trauma wounds after being bludgeoned in the head. And it is believed her killer was caught on her home CCTV cameras. So yeah, it's strange, isn't it? Because, you know, this person, he got into his car outside his house. He must have known the CCTV there, and, you know, his neighbour's CCTV, and there he was seen putting the wooden stick in the car, and then he's gone to Anne's and got caught on CCTV again. So, you know, was he thinking he was going to get away with it? So it says on Friday, cops believe the attack took place at around 12:30 and were working on the assumption she died in a burglary gone wrong. I mean, what do you think? I can't see that's a burglary gone wrong. Who drives all that way to burgle someone in the middle of the day? This is where we are so far, really. That's more or less it, isn't it? What we know. Let's just watch the CCTV of the guy again. This is thought to be the guy. As far as we know, he hasn't actually been charged yet. Let me just share this. So, you know, let me know your thoughts. So sad. It is so sad because, as I say, wherever you think of Anne politically, she was a force of nature, and nobody deserves to be killed like this either. Nobody, not even, you know, anyone that I really don't like. It's just terrible. Someone going off there with murder in mind. So wicked what they've done. They're blocking out his face, you notice. "28 years old. Apparently suffering from the loss of his father from before Christmas. But how many of us have lost our fathers? Didn't make us go off and beat an old lady to death, did it? As I say, I'm sort of short shrift at the moment with these excuses. There's no excuse for doing what he's done to Anne. No excuse whatsoever. There wouldn't be any reason to batter an old lady to death, even if she'd been wicked to him. You know, just the size of him to go and do that to a vulnerable old lady, and feisty as she was, she wouldn't have stood a chance. But it makes you wonder, did he just walk into her home? Was the door open because of the heat? And apparently this altercation took place in the kitchen. Poor Anne. You know, imagine she maybe just went into the kitchen to make a cup of tea or whatever, and there he was. There he was. Terrible, isn't it? So shocking, really, to be honest. I am completely shocked with this. Anyway, another article here in LBC says the neighbours said he was seen leaving the house with a wooden stick and his neighbours said he lived alone and was rarely seen. So, I know that a lot of my followers, my viewers, my chatters, a lot of them have got learning they're open about their learning difficulties or, issues that they've got going on. But, oh, I'm not showing that. Let me just put this back up again. Yeah. And I know a lot of people with learning difficulties. If he's lost his dad just before Christmas, well, yeah, very sad. It's sad to lose your father. I think most of us know what that feels like. As you get older, you soon learn what that feels like. It's horrible. But does that make you then go off and murder some woman you don't even know, some poor old lady you don't even know? And maybe it's political in the sense of maybe you just didn't agree with her views. I watched her last interview again, really, it was just all supporting Nigel Farage. So do you think if maybe it was somebody who hated Nigel Farage that much, but thought they couldn't get to Nigel, so they'd get to Anne instead because she was more vulnerable? Do you think? They say people. Hopefully we'll find these things out as time goes on. But you can't imagine. Sure, I don't like Nigel Farage, but I wouldn't dream of going to his house and, with a wooden stick and murdering him. I mean, we just don't do that. Hi, Margot. Yeah, it is. With a wooden stick at 7:30 in the morning, drive for 4 hours to get to her house and bludgeon her to death. It's evil in the world, isn't it? To me, that's evil, and I do believe in evil. Remembering this is alleged. He hasn't been charged yet, but we can gather from the way the police, they didn't have the right man, the first person that they arrested, but did they know something about it? So he's got a brother who lives in Devon, so it just makes you wonder, was it the brother that they arrested the first time? Why did they arrest that first guy? He has been released, and they said he had nothing more to do with the investigation. So, this is the person that the police see. I hope so. But it's just beyond belief, isn't it? So she's just a year younger than your mum, Margot. This is it. I think we can all identify with this. Same with Nancy Guthrie, who did whatever happened to Nancy there. But of course, Nancy disappeared from her home. There was only blood spatter that was found there. But so it's different in that sense. It's, it wasn't staged as a kidnapping, but who should be safe in her own home. you know, and living in quite a remote, I mean, it's not remote, you can see it's not remote in to a lot of standards, but, you know, was she in with Nancy? Are people careful enough about their security? You know, but I personally think you're more vulnerable in these sort of places than you are in, you know, a built-up area in living. Because if you live right close to your neighbours, at least your neighbours are going to hear a ruckus or screams or whatever. When you live somewhere quite remote, like Anne lived, let's have a look again. Have I still got her place? No. Yeah, anyway, we did look at where she lived, and the same as where Nancy Guthrie lived. Sometimes people let their guard down, don't they, when they live in what are known as safe areas. People sometimes let their guard down. So yeah, but and yeah, similar age to probably a lot of people, a lot of you out there. She's probably similar age to either your mum, maybe your grandma, or maybe even you. You know, just awful to hold all that hate in. That, you know, it's difficult to kill somebody. You know, it's not an easy thing, you know, to literally walk into someone's kitchen and bludgeon them to death, even if it's somebody who's done something terrible to you. You know, it's not easy to do, and yet this man seemed to find it quite easy. Off he went, got up early, nice and early, got dressed, and off he went to Dartmoor and bludgeoned Anne Widdicome to death, allegedly. So we have to keep saying allegedly. Now, I might just have one more look for. Thought that was interesting when we saw Anne's property. And she lived in this beautiful. Now she did have quite. I think she lived there about 13 years from when she retired. So at least she had some time there. But, you know, she had lots more time to go. Her mum was in her 90s when she died. So we have to think that probably Anne would have lived quite a long life. She certainly had nothing wrong with her. She wasn't, as far as, you know, apart from the usual sort of problems of old age, no reason to think she had any particular illnesses or anything. I just want to show her property. And she was proud of it. People would have known, you know, if it would have only needed a little bit of investigation to know where. Look, I need to change that. It's like when people spell my name wrong. It's annoying. That spelled a name wrong. It's hardly the. Let's have a look at some images of her property. Yeah. Make sure that's sharing. Yeah, so we can see, you know, get an idea these where she lived. Swimming pool. She was proud. We saw from that video we watched earlier, she was proud of her library. She'd always wanted a library. So there's a lot on here from before she was murdered. this at home with Anne Widdicome. You know, she was in the local press talking about her home. She was on the national. There were national videos. She was on that antique show. She was public about where she lived. A little bit like Nancy Guthrie again, because Nancy Guthrie over there in America, in Tucson, she was public about where she lived through Savannah, wasn't she, on the Today Show? Why is that kitchen? Where she was murdered, Anne Widdicome, in the then newly renovated kitchen at her home in Dartmoor. She bought the 1908. Oh, so she's had nearly 20 years there. At least she's had some time to enjoy it, but of course she had a lot more time to enjoy it, didn't she? She should have had a lot more time to enjoy it. Hi, Tracy. Oh yeah, this is an article in the Devon Live, so anybody would know where she lived. Anne Widdicome has never been known for sidestepping an issue. If she's got something to say, she'll come straight out and say it, whether she's addressing Craig Revel Horwood on Strictly Come Dancing. That's another fond memory I have of Anne, that when she was on Strictly Come Dancing, she showed everyone. She had a sense of humour. She could poke fun at herself. And she was very popular. And she was popular on Big Brother, Celebrity Big Brother. She came second. So she came over well with the public. So it says, certainly the former Shadow Home Secretary has no truck with visitors to her new home at Hayter on the eastern edge of Dartmoor, which she bought in 2008 for its breathtaking views and the walking, because she liked walking, didn't she? And where she intends to remain for the rest of her life. And there's a sign, it says here, pinned ostentatiously to her sitting room door, no outdoor shoes, no foul beasts. Gosh, that's quite chilling when you're thinking in view. So sadly, a foul beast did get into her home. She's bustling about coordinating the various people working industrially in her home. Sarah the help, Phil the curtain man, a handyman, and goodness knows who else, besides fielding calls from a persistent producer at ITN. Anne is immediately warm and welcoming. Can I get you coffee or biscuits? She quickly prioritizes who needs her total attention, me, and lets the rest of the workforce get on with their own tasks as she ushers me into the sitting room. We settle into facing green sofas next to huge windows, looking out over the spectacular views, and my allotted time begins. Or at least I assume I have an allotted time, but as the interview goes on, I quickly realise it is a relaxed and happy Anne, relishing retirement, who is prepared to give me all the time I need. So yeah, so although she was retired, though, she was, you know, she was always being called on for comments on things. You know, I imagine that Anne is a person, you know, who liked to work, because of course she wasn't married, so you know, and lived alone. So I would imagine she, you know, she still enjoyed working when it suited her. But the whole point of retirement is, hopefully, you know, what you hope for is that, you know, if you enjoy, the thing is, if you enjoy your work, you wouldn't be glad to retire, really. You know, for those of us who are lucky to actually enjoy the jobs that we do, it's not something to look forward to, retirement, is it? It's to look forward to if you don't really like your job, you know, and if you've got other things going on. So I would imagine with Anne, she'd probably love to work as well, you know, but it's different when you retire and you can work when you choose to, rather than have to work, you know. I don't know. I mean, I didn't know Anne, obviously, so I don't know, but she always struck me as someone who enjoyed what she did. you know, whatever it was. So she doesn't even flinch when the photographer suggests carting her off to the moor for some windy shots. She's up for it, just like on Strictly. She's definitely up for everything, wasn't she? So this is her on Strictly. I mean, you know, if you didn't see Anne on Strictly Come Dancing, you should try and look up some videos, and because it was hilarious. I mean, she was, you know, just rubbish dancer, but she went for it every time, and Anton Dubek got the best out of her, and she could laugh at herself. You know, I think this is a lot of people can't laugh at themselves. A lot of people take themselves so seriously, don't they? And Anne didn't do that, you know. I think she loved it. Like, you know, who wouldn't love being on Strictly Come Dancing, you know? I mean, not that I can dance, I'd be absolutely rubbish. I'd be like an Anne Widdicome contestant. Like, she got really far in the competition because people loved her, you know, just her persona and the way she went for it. That would be how I'd be rubbish at the actual dancing. But you know what I would love about being on Strictly Come Dancing are the costumes, you know, all that, the glitter. I love glitter and that, so I'm sure Anne enjoyed that as well. And somebody, look at that dress, it's beautiful, really, isn't it, with the red, yeah, lovely. So there you go, that was Anne on there, and honestly, there'll probably be videos on YouTube. And if you want cheering up one day, you should have a look at those. Well, she didn't get made a lord. Yeah, that's strange. That's strange. Because so many politicians now get made lords or baronesses or whatever. And half of them, they haven't even, look at that. You know, these are grace and favour things, aren't they? I don't agree with the House of Lords, but there are some people who are in there that did deserve it, and Anne probably would have deserved it. She devoted her whole life to public service. Again, whether you agree with her policies or not, she did it. Why wasn't she put in the House of Lords? And then you get other people who do nothing and get put in there. Look at Baroness Mone. You know, Michelle Mone, and she's still a lord. Lord Mandelson, all these people that are as dodgy as anything. And Anne would be someone who, in my opinion, at least would have deserved it. But anyway, so David Cameron didn't give her a peerage because she backed Ken Clarke. I like Ken Clarke as well. You know, I'm not completely anti-Tory. I like the old Tories, like not the ones now. Though Kemi Badenoch, she's better than most. Most of the horrible Tories have defected to reform, of course, haven't they? But yeah, and Anne, of course, was anti-fox hunting, and she had her strong views on abortion and ordination of women and things like that, because she was very traditional. And so a lot of people wouldn't have liked that. She wasn't woke enough, was she? Hi, Sean. Oh, you're coming to us late today, Sean. I'm nearly finished now. I've got classes soon, actually. I've got Monday's a day when I have quite a few Spanish classes, so I've got to go in a moment, sadly. But I hope you'll look back over the video. So, yeah, she was never given a peerage. You know, which is a shame, really. So she didn't like David Cameron because he was probably too woke for her. Anyway, there she is. I mean, Dartmoor is a beautiful place. You know, if you like wilderness places, which I quite do. And it's ironic, really, isn't it? I mean, all the time she went walking on her own around Dartmoor, you'd think that's where you would have maybe be safe. And yet she ended up getting murdered in her own home, where you'd think she would be safe, in her kitchen. So apparently she chose a property in the West Country because it's less remote, she has family connections, and it's warmer for swimming. I know the area well, she says. My father was born in Saltash. My mother was born in Plymouth. I've still got an elderly aunt and a cousin in Saltash and a cousin in Torquay, although that's about it. I used to come down here a lot visiting relatives and things like that. And when I was older, I walked a great deal on Dartmoor, initially with my father, then in later years on my own or with a companion. Walking is her joy, and today she regularly takes herself off for hours, walking up to Hound Tor and beyond. And when you're walking on the moor on your own, miles away from anywhere, and you don't see another human being for days, or you only see them in the far distance, then yes, you certainly feel closer to God. Bless her. Well, I hope, she's passed on to the next world. She was a committed Catholic. She was a woman of faith. So, yeah. So yeah, she looked after her mum when her mum was getting up. Her mum was elderly. She died in 2007, and then her brother Malcolm, who was 10 years older than her, he was an Anglican canon in Bristol, and he died of cancer. And but she has a nephew, this Reverend Roger Widdicome. So do you know what? She's certainly left an impact on the world. That's the positive thing. As I say, whether you agree with her or not about her politics, she certainly has had a big impact on this world, this crazy world that we live in. Some for positive things, some for negative things, in my opinion. I don't agree with all the politics. I just don't. But as that clip that we watched earlier of her standing up to Nick Philpott, I love that. I loved her Strictly Come Dancing. And I do think Alicia was an honest person who said what she really thought. And I think that's a good thing. Honesty, whatever her beliefs were, she really did believe them. They weren't performative. She wasn't trying to win friends and influence people. She didn't care. She said what she thought. Again, whether you agree with her or not, you knew that she really did believe it. She wasn't saying it for effect or points or votes. She said what she really thought. And I think, that's a positive thing about anybody. Who's Colin? Colin, because that's... Oh, that Colin was the guy that she did have a relationship with, but he ended up marrying somebody else and became a successful banker in Geneva. So yeah, she never married. She probably just didn't find the right person. It's not obligatory to get married, is it? For a woman, a lot of women quite happy not being married, don't have to wash someone's socks. Whatever, she just never met the right person. Anyway, we'll look one more time. This is the alleged, for anyone who missed it. Hang on. I think I'm back now. I might have gone off for a minute there, but this is the alleged murderer of Anne Widdicome leaving his property in Rotherham with a big wooden stick, loading up a big wooden stick into his car, allegedly on his way to murder a little 78-year-old woman in her own kitchen. Great big guy like this. Anyway, I suspect we'll find out more over the next few days. Yeah, Sean, her brother was that she was part of the Church of England, but she didn't like it when the Church of England started getting more woke. Anne was a complete traditionalist. She didn't agree with the ordination of women into the priesthood. What was the other thing she didn't agree with? There was a few things that the Anglican Church or Church of England started doing that in Anne's eyes were too woke, so she became a Catholic. That's why. So she wasn't always a Catholic. She converted to Catholicism because she didn't like the way the Church of England was becoming too woke. As I said before, I don't know what she would have made of Pope Leo, because he's quite progressive, isn't he? But anyway, that was hers. The thing is, she's a traditionalist. You know, that I've seen people. The thing is, it's all like, you know, so you get some people saying she was against homosexuality, but then you've got Dan Wootton, of all people, who is open, not much as I can't stand him, but he's openly gay, isn't he? So he says, no, she wasn't anti-gays. You know, she was a really good friend to him. So you were getting, I don't think she was, I think she was a kind person, but she had these traditional values. And, you know, they were her values to have. Everyone's entitled to their values. But it didn't seem to mean that she, you know, never spoke to anybody who was gay or thought they were terrible people or anything like that. She believed that as far as in the manner, I've seen somebody commenting who knows, and believe me, you know, and they're describing Anne Widdicome as a great champion of children, you know, children in the care system that are systematically abused. She was a great champion for them, apparently, according to this person. This person knows because they've been through the care system and the abuse that you can end up having. So yeah, she's a, what's the word, a conundrum. I think you could say that Anne Widdicome was a conundrum. She's sort of, you know, as I say, opposite political views to me, but I've still got a respect and admiration for her and always have had. So, yeah. Anyway, let's hope this charge is coming soon. Hi, Jay Dillon. Yeah, exactly. I was saying that earlier. Learning, what do they mean by learning difficulties anyway? And I don't like this. I hope that's not going to come up as some sort of defence. Lots of people have got learning difficulties. They don't go around murdering 78-year-old women. You know, I think it's an insult to people with learning difficulties, to be honest, when they bring that kind of thing up. Because there's people out there struggling day in, day out to cope with their learning difficulties and to, you know, lead a productive life, and they don't go off murdering old ladies. And then if they're going to bring this up in this guy's case, oh, well, he had learning difficulties. It's an insult to people. You know, some people are just bad, whether they've got learning difficulties or not. Some people are just plain evil. People with learning difficulties aren't evil. But this one, if it's proven that he did it, well, yeah, he is evil. Can't use that as an excuse, can you? And then the other thing, apparently, as you say, apparently just before Christmas, his dad died. And I was saying earlier, not many of us who haven't lost our dads. Didn't make us go out and murder some 78-year-old woman we didn't even know. So no, I've had it. I've had it with these, you know, reasons that people do things. People do things because they're bad. Millions of people got learning difficulties. Millions of people have lost their dads. They don't go out and then take it out on some 78-year-old woman. So we don't even know that that's the reason he's going to present. You know, I mean, he may be full-blown sort of schizophrenic for all we know. That's not learning difficulties, is it? You know, that's a whole different thing. That's a mental illness. But, you know, learning difficulties, ADHD, this, that, and the other, not having that for an excuse for bludgeoning a 78-year-old woman to death. Not accepting it at all. So exactly. Everyone has you know, if someone's autistic, or again, it's an insult. In my opinion, it's an insult to people that are coping with autism or learning difficulties or neurodivergence, or it's an insult to blame it on that, because there's people out there grappling with it every day and not murdering other people because of it. So he'll have a reason. He'll have a reason. People do things for a reason. It won't be a reason probably we can understand. But whoever did it to her, they'll have a real or imagined reason. I mean, look at people like look at John Lennon, shot by a fan. You know, sometimes people have their own sort of. They're just working on a different. You know, it could be an obsession. He could have got obsessed with Anne, like John Lennon's killer was obsessed with him. You know, sometimes people just develop obsessions about public figures. You know, someone who's on the TV a lot. You know, we just don't know. We don't know. But he'll have had his own kind of reason. But it won't be a reason that we understand. Won't be a reason we understand. Hopefully, we don't want to understand it. We don't, you know, we don't want to be able to understand how somebody could batter this poor lady to death in her own home. We don't want to understand that, do we? Because you know, we're better than that. We hope. God, you know, none of us are perfect. No, even if he went round there and started shouting at her or something, you know, maybe because he didn't agree with her political views or whatever. But to murder her, come on. Why has he murdered her? It's terrible. And, you know, I think about poor Anne. You know, did she just go into the kitchen, I'd say, maybe to make a cup of tea, and there he was. He's a big guy. And Anne would have given him a mouthful, there's no doubt about it. Wouldn't she be like, what are you doing here? Who are you? Did he just walk in? Was the door just open because it was hot? Or did he knock on the door and she opened it? I mean, you know, all these are things that will come out, I suppose. But it's very tragic, very, very tragic. But more will come out over the next few days. Right, I've got to go. I've enjoyed chatting to you all. I'm sorry it's such a horrible sort of case, but then, you know, I talk about true crime, so we're never really talking about anything upbeat, are we? But it's good news that somebody has been caught, or allegedly, again, haven't been charged yet. That's what we're waiting for today, is for the charges to come. I'll let you know events. In the meantime, take care of yourself. I'll see you really soon in the next video. Thank you so much for watching. Please don't forget to subscribe, press the like button, and press notifications so you get notified of any updates. Thank you so much. I'll see you really soon in the next video. And until then, may your God go with you. Bye. Rest in peace, Anne. In fact, let's just put a picture of Anne up to say goodbye with, because we don't want to keep looking at this twonk. Thank you, Sean. Yeah, hit like. Why is that picture not coming? There you go. Yeah, rest in peace, Anne. Justice for Anne Widdicome. I can't even believe I'm saying that, to be honest. It's still quite shocking, isn't it? Okay. Take care. Bye.